Arrays are like lists. Arrays allow us to store one or more instances of particular data, whether it be numbers, words, strings, paragraphs. Arrays allow us to store multiples of those versus just creating individual variables, which would be very tedious from a programmer standpoint. And what do we say? Programmers are lazy. We don't like repeating ourselves over and over again. So we have arrays, which allow us to store, multiple pieces of data within memory and allow us to access it as well. So if you remember back to last week, how do we create an array? We, of course, start with the type it's going to hold, the type of data it's going to hold. So if I want an array that's going to hold 10 names, names are strings. So we would say string, brace, brace, names equals new string, open brace, then whatever the size of our array is, 10, semicolon. Now, if you remember, we can also modify the size of the array, or we can read that size in from the console. So if we want to read that in from the console, we need a scanner. Input equals new scanner, system.in. Of course, we need to import that scanner. And then we can say int, the size has to be an integer, equals integer.parseInt, input.next line. And instead of putting 10 here, we'll just put size. So now if the user types in a 5, our array will be of size 5. If they type in a 15, it'll be of size 15. All right. Let's create a program that reads in names and how many points this person scored in a soccer match, a soccer game. So, they might score between, 1 and 3 goals a game, or 0 to 3 goals a game. 3 being they had a really good game. And so we'll read in their name and their corresponding how many goals that they scored. So with goals, again, you can't have half a goal. At least I don't think you can. So int goals equals new int. Same size. So however many players there are, that's how many goals the index within our goals array is going to correspond to that player. All right. So now let's read in their names and the goals they scored. For, and we want to do a for loop because we know the programmer may not know how many players there are, but we have a variable that does. Size on line 7. It knows how many players there are, so we can do a for loop. And I equals 0, I is less than size, I plus plus. Then we prompt the user. System.out.println. Please enter player. And then I'm going to say I plus 1 because I wanted to say 1, not 0. Name. All right. And then we can say names at index I equals input.next line. All right. Same thing for how many goals they score. System.out.println. How many goals did We don't have to say player anymore. We can use their name. Plus names at index I score. And then we can say goals at index I equals integer dot parsent input dot next line. All right. So let's see what this program looks like running. So again, the first thing we enter in, we need to prompt the user system.out.println. How many players are there? So let's say there's 5 players. The first one is, who's a famous soccer player?
Messi.
Ronaldinho.
You said what?
Ronaldo.
Who's another? Who's 3 more?
Neymar.
Two more.
Mbappe.
I can't remember. Is it this?
Double
That-
P. Double P.
Like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Who's the last?
Suarez.
Say that again.
Suarez. Suarez.
SAUREZ.
Suarez.
Yeah,
I think-
that's okay, but the U comes before the A.
Like that?
There you go.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's see what this program looks like. So first thing, we prompt the user. How many players are there? Down here. The user types in 5. So size is 5, and read that from the console. We create an array of size 5. And then another array of size 5 as well. One of these holds strings. The other one holds integers. Then we loop through from 0 to I is less than size, which size equals 5. So I starts at 0. We ask for, please enter player 1's name. We read in the first name from the console, Messi. You see, we did names at index I, which is 0, equals input that next line. So it equals Messi. How many goals did Messi score? We put in 2, so now it's 2. I is incremented by 1. How many? Please enter player 2's name. Ronaldo. How many goals did Ronaldo score? 3. And that gets put into our array. Same thing. Neymar. 2. Mbappe. 1. Suarez. You see that's in our array. Scored 2. I is incremented again to 5. 5 is not less than size, it's equal. I is not less than size, it's equal to it. So that ends the for loop, which ends our program. All right. So now, what if we want to write our code to where we find which player scored the highest number of goals? How would I modify my code?
You could do a method or something.
Okay. What does that method look like?
Oh.
So we got to write the signature. So public static. Let's just return the name. We don't have to return how many goals. String highest scorer. What parameters does our method need in order to find who the highest scorer is?
Doesn't it have to check every like every input in the array and then like just see which one's the biggest?
Mhm.
So wouldn't we have it like pull out the first one, the second one, the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one,
Right.
and then like do the little like how we usually do the greater than thing, and then
Correct. Yeah. The thing to note though is that for our parameters, what does our method need in order to find those scores and to find the player's name? Because if we don't pass anything into our method, it has nothing to work off of. Our method requires both of our arrays, right? We have to pass in those arrays for our method to work, or else it can't search anything. There's nothing to search. There are no parameters. So to write our parameters or our arguments, we have to start with the type they are. So the names array is a string. Names. The goals array is an int. Int goals. We basically have to specify what our arguments are for this method. What does this method need in order to solve whatever problem we're giving to it? All right. Like this light. Let me just turn it off. All right. So it needs the names array and needs the goals array. So now, to Elegim's point, we can find who the highest scorer is. Int max equals integer dot min value. Int index equals -1. So just because we find the max, we need to keep track of that index or the name, one of the two. Int name equals empty string. So when we find a new max, we're going to set the name equal to whatever name it is that corresponds to that max. So now let's loop through our array. For int I equals 0, I is less than what? What do we put here? We don't have access to size.
Size?
Yeah, we don't have access to size because that's in our main method. So what can we put here? How do we get the size of our array? What's the keyword?
So, let me look at my notes real quick.
What's the keyword we can use?
Did we talk about in the last class?
Yep.
Is it like the something?
Oh,
with the
array
length?
length.
Lamp?
Yep. Yep. Length. So we could do goals dot length and I plus plus. Again, the dot length attribute is the size of our array. Then we can say if goals at index I is greater than max, max equals goals at index I, name equals names at index I, because that name corresponds with however many goals they scored. All right, so once that for loop finishes, we should have the name of whoever scored the maximum amount of goals. How do we return this back to wherever we called this method? What is the keyword?
Return.
return. And what are we returning?
The string.
Right. Which string is that? Oops.
Name.
Correct. Name. That should be the name of whoever scored the highest number of goals. And be mindful of all your different brackets. So this bracket closes my if statement, this bracket, my for loop, and then this bracket, my method. So I'm going to say string highest score equals, then we could call our method. Let's not name this high score. Let's say top player equals, let's call our method highest score, and we pass in our parameters. Then we do system.out.println top player plus scored the most goals. So again, what did I do? So the first thing is I read in the size of our arrays. Then I created two arrays, one that holds the names, one that holds the goals. Then I read in each name and each goal. Finally, I create a method, and inside this method, what it does is it finds whoever scored the most goals. And then from there, we print out that player's name. Okay. The last thing I want to do is sort this array. All right, let's sort this array, and I believe in ascending order from smallest to biggest. In order to do that, we say whatever our goals are, our array that we want to sort equals arrays.sort that array. Makes it really easy. There's a built-in method to sort our array. And then if we want to print this out.
But what about the string one? Won't that, because both arrays correlate directly, so.
Right, that's the thing to keep in mind. And you would have to figure out how to sort them accordingly, right? And so you may have to create your own unique sorting method. But for simple integers, and even it sorts strings, but it's going to sort them in alphabetical order, which doesn't really help us when we're corresponding names to goals. But for something simple like this, let's just say we want to sort highest to lowest, or however, I believe arrays are sorted in ascending order. This works. System.out.println goals at index I. All right, let's see what happens here now. I believe you have to import java.util.arrays. And I don't think you have to do goals equals. Yeah, you just do arrays.sort whatever array you're trying to sort. All right. How many players are there? We create our first array, we create our second array. I starts at 0. We just went through this. He scored 2, he scored 3, 2, 1, and 2. All right. We're calling our highest scorer method, so it's going to jump down to that method. And if you notice what happens here, in memory, our names and goals parameters in our highest score method point to the same arrays in memory. So what that means is if we modify these arrays inside this method, it'll modify these arrays in our main method as well. That's called pass by reference. They point to the same place in memory. So if you modify them in this method, it's going to modify them in the calling method as well. Back here in the main method. And so that's an important distinction. Pass by reference. Arrays are passed by reference. All other primitive types like integers, strings, and doubles are passed by value. Meaning you can modify the parameter in the method, but it won't change the value in the calling method. So on here, we're going through, we're going to loop through these arrays. If goals at index I, 2 is greater than our current max, negative 2 million, I believe. It definitely is. So our new max is 2. Our name is going to be name at index I, which is name at index 0. So Messi. We'll go through again. 3. Our new max is Ronaldo. Go through again. These are all false now. So we get down here, we return our name, which is Ronaldo. We go back up here. Top player equals Ronaldo. We print that out. He scored the most goals. Then we're going to sort our array. Yeah, and it sorts it in ascending order. And then we print out the values. And again, to Elikim's point, it doesn't maintain the relationship with our names array. That's going to be more advanced logic that's we're not going to talk about in this class. Any questions about what we just covered with the arrays? All right, go ahead.
Dr. Brown, I'm getting an error on arrays. So the line that's on line 26.
26.
Yes, sir.
Did you import java.util.arrays?
Okay, I think that's what I missed.
Yeah.
Can I see the line one more time? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? All right, if there's no other questions, that's going to be all I planned on covering today. So we'll reconvene on Friday. Lab and assignment 12 will be due this weekend and on Friday. Lab and assignment 13 will be extra credit for next week. Friday will be the last, if you will, in-class lecture. Next week will all be makeup and review.
Okay, sir.
All right, so if there's no other questions, that'll be it for today. I will see you all on Friday.